In this movie, we're going to learn how to enable PHP on our Macintosh. If you remember the overview, I told you that OS 10.8 ships with PHP 5.3 already built in. Now it's already there, but it's not enabled, it's not turned on, meaning that Apache isn't ready to serve up PHP files. We're going to have to make a little change to make that happen. In addition, 5.3 isn't the newest version of PHP. So we're also going to want to upgrade to a newer version. And I think it's instructive for you to see how to do that process. But we're going to start out by just getting version 5.3 up and running by enabling it. Let's see how. So here I am in my terminal program, and I'm just going to start by typing php-v. And that's going to return the version of PHP that I have installed. You can see that I have PHP 5.3.15. Yours might be slightly different. Notice also that it tells me that it's running Zend engine v2. We talked about that in the history section, that PHP now runs on the Zend engine. So PHP is installed and we have version 5.3, but it's not active yet. We need to tell Apache, hey Apache, you need to be prepared for some PHP files and be prepared to process those. And you do that by loading up one of your modules that knows how to interpret PHP. That module is included, it's just not turned on. So in order to do that, we need to do some configuration to Apache. We're going to start by moving to Apache's configuration directory. That's going to be cd /etc/Apache2. This is where Apache's config files are stored. If we type ls, we'll get a list of those. And you can see httpd.conf. That's the file that we want. We know httpd is the nickname for Apache and conf for the config file. So in order to edit that, I'm going to use sudo to get my maximum amount of Unix privileges, and then nano for my simple text editor, and then I'm going to edit that httpd.conf file. It's going to ask me for my password. That's the password I use when I'm installing software on my Mac. And here it is. Now I have the conf file open. I can browse this and make all sorts of changes and configurations to Apache, but I'm really just looking for one change, which is for PHP. So instead of browsing through this long document, it says it's 500 lines long, I'm going to go straight to it. And you can see that one of the options at the bottom is where is. And the way to get that is Control W, and that will allow us to search for some text. And what are we going to search for? PHP. So I have PHP and hit return. It takes us straight there. So here it is, the PHP 5 module. This is the module that gives Apache the knowledge about how to interpret PHP code. But it's not loaded right now. And how do I know that? Because this pound or hash sign that's at the beginning is telling it that this line is commented out and is not to be loaded. So I need to take that out. You won't be able to just use your mouse and click there. We're on the command line. We want to use your arrow keys. So move the cursor over to the L and then just hit delete to get rid of that. Now it has been uncommented. The next time that Apache loads this config file, it will also load the module to be able to read PHP code. So let's hit Control X to exit, Y in order to save the changes, and then return to save them in the file name that it suggests. Okay, so that's been added to Apache, but we need to also, of course, restart the server. We know how to do that. Apache CTL restart. Now it restarted. Now those changes have taken effect. PHP is loaded up inside Apache, and it's ready to process our PHP files. Now don't just take my word for it. Let's actually try it out. Let's navigate to our sites directory. That's inside our user root, which is that little squiggle, followed by the /, and then our sites directory. If I list, you'll see that I have my index.html file in there. I'm going to make a new one now using nano, and we don't need sudo in front of nano this time. We're just making a simple text file. We don't need high-level privileges. And I'm going to call it my_phpinfo.php. That's going to be the name of my file. It's going to open up here, and I'm going to write my very first PHP code here. So just follow along. It's going to be > sign, a question mark, PHP, a space, PHP info, open and close parentheses, semicolon, space, question mark, and then greater than sign. We'll talk about what all of these things mean, but the short version is that I've got PHP tags on either side of a command telling it what to do. So the beginning and ending bookends that have the question mark and the <, greater than signs, those are the PHP tags telling it, hey, PHP is inside here. And then the command in the middle is the PHP info function that's being called. So now when we go to a browser and we request Apache to load up this PHP page, it's going to see that it ends in .php. It's going to see the PHP tags, and it's going to process this command that's here in the middle. and we'll see the results of what that function will output. So let's do Control X to exit, Y to save our changes, and return to keep that file name. We can see that it is here in my sites directory. Let's go to our browser. Let's try it out. Localhost. Remember, we need to put our username in front of this. And then my_phpinfo.php. So there it is. It loaded up that PHP and it processed it. And the result of that was to output some HTML describing the entire configuration of PHP on this system. It's an extremely useful command. First of all, because it tells you all the configuration, so you could review that and see how things are configured, see if there are any problems, but also just because it is the simplest test that you can do to prove to yourself that PHP is working on this system. If the PHP info page works, then Apache is able to handle serving up PHP. The problem's got to be something else. So that's it. We've now enabled PHP. And we could go ahead and we could start working with this, and you could go through this tutorial, and almost everything that I'm going to show you in the tutorial is going to work just fine with version 5.3 of PHP. However, I want us to see how we can upgrade to a newer version, and we're going to do that next.